Well, good evening. It's Sia with Black Petal Gardening. If this is the first time you're watching one of our videos, welcome. I hope you enjoy yourself. And if you've followed along with some of our videos in the past, thank you for dropping by again. And I hope you enjoy, what you see as well. Today it is, what is today? Today is the 29th of August. So we're at the end of August and we're going to do just kind of a brief look-see around the garden. Mostly going to focus on kind of some of what I'm considering to be failures. I don't know that you see enough of that um, in videos, and so folks can sometimes feel discouraged because of that. Well, trust me, I got tons. So let's go see what there is to see. Now, first you can see we've got this big, huge pile of wood over here, and that is because we are getting started on breaking down the old raised beds that were here. But on to kind of our failures. So the first one is this blueberry plant. You can see here it is very crispy, brown leaves. This never actually ended up doing anything for the year. I'm not sure why. I want to say we had similar issues with it last year as well, with no berries. Um, so it may be a situation where we'll give it another year, and then if we have similar problems, it'll have to come up and we'll put something else in there. Um, I don't know if I should categorize the raspberries as a failure. I mean, as we can see that they've grown for sure. Um, Both the fall gold, which is a yellow raspberry, and our raspberry shortcake, we didn't really get a lot in the way of berries on the fall gold, maybe like 3 or 4. And on the strawberry shortcake, we got, 10 to 15. For a first year, maybe that's good. So I won't say it was a failure, I'll say it was a little bit disappointing. Once again, with the, oh gosh, what are these things called? I always forget. Oh yeah, the honeyberries. We didn't really have a lot of berries. The plant seems to be thriving. It's growing up tall and everything, but the berries, the amount of berries, it was negligible. So we'll see. Ugh, my poor double puff or double click. What is this? Yeah, double click snow puff Cosmo. It, for whatever reason, it was going great, and then it just bleh. Maybe the heat. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what the problem was there. This is our pink lemonade. I will say this one is kind of a 50-50. We definitely had a handful of pink lemonade berries, but it falls again kind of in that disappointment versus the expectation that I had. It did not produce the way I was hoping, but again, this was a first year planting this year, so I guess I should probably give it a little bit of grace, yeah? Okay, so here's our beans, our fall beans, and most of these are doing well. I did not get 100% germination on any of the ones that I put out. Pretty good germination on the jade and the royal burgundy. The provider did okay. This contender, I'm pretty sure that's what this one was. Yes, the contender, terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I re-sowed beans twice in there. So I don't know what the deal was with those. Horrendous. So in this little area, that's kind of our main failures. I will say, though I do have one Gomphrena that is obviously blooming and has now put forth a second bloom, which is this one right over here. I actually had 3 plants, and that is the only one that survived. So the percentages are not great. This is purely 100% my own fault. It was my lack of care, but this bucket had our oregano, our thyme, and our sage, as well as we planted a little bit of marjoram, which was a first year plant. The others had been in there last year and had overwintered and did fine. They did not get enough care. They did not get enough water. So they are toast. It's possible they'll go over through the winter, fall, winter, and spring and come back. It does look like the oregano is getting a few new leaves on the branches, so it may not be that we are 100% done with what we're seeing in here for all of the herbs, but we definitely let down most of them. So the dwarf tomatoes, I would say we're in a weird place right now. We are finally starting to get fruit set. It looks like some is actually maturing all right. It's been very, very slow. The amount of fruit has been very, very small. And we'll keep going through here. I've struggled with them, and I don't know if that's because we put them in these containers, but especially the ones that are in these fabric ones, I've had trouble with. I haven't been pleased, and the biggest problem that I've seen is this, the blossom end rot. I haven't had an opportunity to really harvest anything that is 100% ripe or close that has not had some kind of blossom end rot damage, and that has been kind of disappointing. Again, this is the first year that I've ever done dwarf tomatoes. I have also not done them in, small pots before, and this year has been interesting with it being essentially a first year garden. So a lot of learning opportunities. Now, that isn't to say that, future stuff, isn't going to look better as we continue to go into the season, but it has actually been rather cool the last few days. We went from 106 to down into the 90s, and then it almost feels like boom, immediately down into the 70s, and we've had some rain. I am not complaining, I am just explaining. I'm not going to call the green stalks failures, because we have obviously done very, very well with what's growing on them. What I will say is we needed to do a much better job at making sure they were level. So next year, that is going to be a priority, whether we keep them where they're at or find a place in that back area to put them. We need to make sure that we have a level area for them, because that does affect how well the watering goes. And I think if we have that as our starting point, we'll do even better. But this one, the green stalks, I can't count those as a failure. I'm gonna pop over somewhere else in the garden in just a second. Okay, so here we are. We are at our Santa Rosa plum. Now, looking at the plant, it is very vigorous. It's very lush. We've got a lot of branches. We absolutely need to trim this out because it's really, really full in there, and we need to get more air movement, but I am going to count this as a failure. First, because in the spring, I did not do my coppercide spray, and we ended up with plum pockets and plum galls or something like that. So things did not fruit properly. And then the fruit that we did get did not fully set and fully ripen all the way. We actually ended up with a lot of fruit drop and did not have an opportunity, I think, to really eat any that were actually ripe. We tried a couple through, last month testing to see where they were, but by the time they should have been, in a good ripened stage, they had all either dropped or, squirrels and birds had destroyed them and other bugs. So that I'm considering kind of a failure. The Brooks plum, I really felt that it would be more prolific than it was this year, because last year we definitely had a good, for a first harvest, had a good harvest. We are able to pull some off. These are still kind of young, but trying to learn from our experience last year, and as well as what the experience we're having with the Santa Rosas. I have been eating off of these. They taste okay. They taste fine. I'm sure they taste even better, the longer that they sit on the tree, because I think these are supposed to be more harvested maybe in September. So we're getting close to that, but yeah, a little bit disappointing on the production for that. Speaking of disappointments, I got 0 peaches off of our trees this year. Last year we had some fruit growth, but they were not in a good position. And you know what? I just said that, and then I just noticed these. Obviously, these are not to size. In the past, they would have plumped up by now. I want to say that we typically, for this tree, harvest in October or November. So maybe, just maybe, there will still be a chance for us to get some peaches off of our tree. I feel like those are underdeveloped, and they're underdeveloped late. So I'm not going to hold my breath. But I am actually surprised that there are any fruits. When I looked this over previously, I would have sworn there's absolutely nothing. And we had a very large amount. I don't know if I can get this into focus of this leaf curl stuff. Not just on this one, which is our cocktail tree, which also has plums on it, but on our other one that's purely, I don't know if you can hear that, but that is a cute little bird. At first I was thinking it might be a hummingbird, because they seem to make little clicky noises too, but nope, it's a little bit bigger bird. Anyway, the plum side, 0. We had no plums on the tree, which this, I think, is the first year that that's ever happened. No, last year we may have had that issue too. So not the best year for our cocktail tree. And speaking of the peaches, this is our peach tree. It is looking 1,000 times better than it did earlier this year, when it was riddled with that leaf curl. So I'm very pleased with how it has bounced back, but it definitely doesn't have any fruit. Now, if we continue on, this is our nectarine, and again, it has increased in size, so I'm very pleased about that for both of these. We do have some damage to the leaves I think some of this is the extreme heat that we had, but I also think that some critters have gotten to it. So we definitely are going to need to make sure we do our coppercide, especially this spring. And some of these new shoots are actually coming from the stock plant and not the grafted part. So I need to take those off so that it's not wasting its energy. We've got a squirrel that's running around up here making all sorts of noise in the trees. But of course, now that oh, there he is. Oh, that doesn't help if I put my finger in there and ruin the there. Yep. I will say, as a caveat to this being a terrible situation, we do have and still have our one nectarine. We did have this early in the year. I saw it and I was very excited. Obviously, we can see that there's some damage on it, probably some kind of critter taking a little bit of a nibble, some bird, who knows. But I'm leaving it on there. I'm hoping that it'll ripen in place and I'll be able to get to it before something gets back to it again, and actually be able to eat that. I don't care that something has been nibbling on that. That will be the first nectarine ever that I have grown myself, and I don't want anything to get in the way of me, getting the ultimate reward for that process, being that I can harvest and at least take one bite out of it. Yeah, another failure that we have. Unfortunately, none of our cauliflower seems to have germinated. I am going to reseed, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shade cloth down. I don't know if it's affected this, but I'm going to take it down because we're starting to get into the fall months anyway. And then instead of only doing 2 plants of each variety like I did last time, I think I'll do 3. And hopefully that'll help. We'll see. Okay. I think a failure that is very apparent was in our planning and execution. I was not prepared for how big the squash area would get overgrown, how much it would get overgrown. That definitely was an oversight on my part, and it's definitely going to inform what I do in the future as far as planting decisions. Even more so, the tomato and pepper bed, had this discussion multiple times. Too many tomatoes too close together, and I think it did impact the prolificness volumes that we're getting from our peppers. I need to have separate beds for the peppers, separate beds for the tomatoes, and I need to be far more selective as to how many tomatoes I plant in the bed and how closely I plant them together. But even more so, I need to be so much more better. Is that the best way to phrase that? I need to vastly improve my structures that I'm going to put in place to keep the tomatoes in check. The keeping them trimmed timely, which I didn't do a great job of, as well as staking and things of that nature. This is just an overgrown mess. It's made it difficult for harvesting. So far, I haven't seen anything that I would consider to be diseased. Most of the damage that I'm seeing seems to be sun scald and plants that are rubbing against the terrible structures that I put in. So nothing disease related that I'm noticing. They have been prolific, I will say, despite my efforts. Nature found a way and have been doing what they can. So, I can't fault the plants at all. Definitely any issues were on me. So so that's kind of where I'm seeing some failures. Um, I don't know. We've got mushrooms growing in our bin. I have no idea if that's a good or a bad thing. We will not be eating them. Not at all. Um, this particular tomato has absolutely taken over. Um, since we are getting into fall, I am going to need to start thinking about paring back, pulling plants out, even though they're very vigorous, so that we can get a few more fall plants in. So, so yeah, as an overall, I think we did fantastic this year. Amazing. I think for a first year, new beds, new design, new setup, we did amazing. But, there were definitely failures along the way. There are definitely failures that we are reaping now. I mean, this green stock, I had to replant all with starts that I purchased from a local nursery because 90% of the seeds that we put in for seed starting did not take. For our strawberry and bean green stock, about a third, I would say, of the beans did not germinate. So we had to reseed for those. It was a mixed bag. And we're starting to see powdery mildew. I guess I can show that on our, yeah, see, look at that. On our cucumber here, the dragon's egg. Starting to take over some. I am not going to do anything about that, really, though, because it is what it is, and we're getting to the end of the season. So overall, it was a plus, but I did want to show some of the things that haven't gone well, and opportunities for me to improve. Alrighty, well, on that note, I am going to take off. It's getting a little loud out here, and I hope you enjoyed walking through our garden, and I hope you have a marvelous evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.